Hey everyone, Sam Monaco here with my friend Meikle Gardner,
Hello, hello.
and we're here at Monaco Studios. This is Live at the Loft. Thanks for being here, Michael.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to be working with you here again. You're up from Brooklyn, is that right?
Brooklyn, yeah, absolutely. Drove up, was it Friday morning? And yeah, so coming back to do some recording, a new EP, and looking forward to seeing how that turns out. It's always a pleasure to work with you and to be here in the studio and be in Maine.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
It worked out really nicely. We're here snowed in today. I was able to snow blow just in time for our video crew to arrive. Thanks for being here, guys.
Yes, thank you.
But no, it's great to have a cozy studio day, getting snowed in, and working on this new project with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so for those who maybe don't know who you are, who is Meikle Gardner?
Oh, well, Meikle Gardner is sort of unfolding all the time. And that's good. But I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I grew up in Texas. And I've been in New York City now for 18 years, which is probably about 5 years longer than I want to be. But I'm eventually aiming to be up here in New Hampshire or Maine or Vermont or something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you up here.
Yeah, well, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm totally in. But I'm a painter. I have a master's degree in painting, and I also write, published books, singer, songwriter, just basically a creative individual.
Renaissance man.
Yeah, I like to be able to take in the world, you know, and reinterpret it how I see it and perceive it, and disseminate it, I guess, you know, out into the world. Sometimes it's through song, sometimes it's through painting, sometimes it's poetry, whatever it is. And because not for me anyway, not all of those things are constant. I'll find that, you know, I might be songwriting for 6 months, 7 months, and then that sort of gives me the seeds to do what we're doing here, you know, recording. And once that's done, then I finish illustrations for a book I'm working on, and then hand that book off. And then I'm like, oh, I really need to get in my painting studio and paint a little bit, because I haven't done that in a little while.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Kind of free flowing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of my motto for life, is to free flow. Interesting sort of thing that sort of illustrates that is there's this idea of a little red ball floating down a river.
Sure.
And it is just getting caught in eddies and bouncing up against rocks. So instead of trying to fight it, sometimes I just sort of like, I'm just a little red ball floating in a river.
I love that.
And I'm gonna go where it takes me. And that has come in handy in New York City traffic.
I bet.
Many times.
Oh man, yeah, New York City traffic. I feel like what finally made it all make sense to me is just feeling like we're not a bunch of individuals here anymore. We are just a gigantic organism all moving together.
Yeah.
That allowed me to be very
Sometimes
zen.
not moving together.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, as a collective organism, sometimes you need to rest.
Yeah.
So, you know, I love that though. It's a great image, the red ball floating down the river. So you strike me as a very laid back kind of country type of guy.
Right.
How did a guy like that end up in New York City?
Oh, well, I always wanted to live in New York City, strangely. I mean, I was born in Oklahoma, moved to Texas when I was 3, and it just sort of, once I got out of my athletic jock phase.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I knew about that
I played
phase.
basketball and soccer for a long time. I played soccer even once I moved here, so I still love the soccer, and playing basketball too with my son, but... And once I got out of that, I had told my basketball coach at that time, I was like, I want to not run up and down the basketball court anymore.
Yeah.
And he's like, where are you going to go? I was like, well, they will let you go into either band or art in mid-semester. So I'm going to go to art.
Nice. Yeah, there's less running in art.
Way less running in art. And when I was in that class... The first assignment I did a block print and entered some competition and I won, and I was like,
nice.
Oh, I could do this.
Right.
I could make art and do this. Plus, the kids could walk into class super late and the teacher didn't care.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is great.
Right.
Way better than running up and down the basketball court.
Totally.
And I wasn't going to be a college basketball player anyway.
Yeah. So changed your life for the better.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. Totally.
And so that led you to want to be in New York City.
Yeah, well, basically the art.
Yeah.
You know, so once I went to college and got my degrees in art, ever since I was 18, I wanted to be in the big city.
Sure.
I just always found myself in some sort of a situation, whether it was a relationship or a job or something that wasn't allowing me to get to the city.
Gotcha.
And then in 2006, there were no obstacles. I was like, I'm going.
Nice.
So I came.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I guess we probably met maybe 5, 6, 7 years after you moved there.
Yeah.
That would have been like soon after I got out of college. And yeah, it's a funny thing. I mean, I love telling this story about, how we knew each other at first, because I think it so, clearly illustrates how sometimes you can just know somebody in just only one side of a person.
Sure.
And it's a nice reminder that, like, you never know, you think about the people that in your life, there could be these other sides to them that you just have no idea about.
Absolutely.
So yeah, because we only, for the first 5 years that we knew each other, worked in the fine art world in New York together.
Right.
I was managing and consulting with a variety of artists, and you have this great company, Green Crates, where you can speak to what Green Crates is.
Yeah, it's primarily a fine art service company that we install artwork for galleries and museums and collectors, and we transport artwork and do that in general. But we are the only company that resells used fine art shipping crates. So what we would do is we would collect the crates from galleries and museums instead of having them go to the landfill. So we're just trying to be a little kinder to our planet.
Yeah. I mean, it's like one of those great ideas that's like a win-win-win, it seems like.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, it's like most of our conversations for those first 5 years was just like, yeah, when are you going to be there? What are you picking up? Like,
what are the paintings made of? Do they have glass?
Right.
What kind of crate does this need to be created?
Yeah.
It's all art business professional.
Yeah, and like, come on, let's
let's
get this done. Let's figure it out.
Absolutely.
On to the next thing. Time is money. That sort of mentality. So yeah, it was so funny and just a great moment when after we found this amazing house where we live and the studio that came with it, and you and I were working on some job that I was handling remotely, and it's just like, oh, by the way, I'm in Maine now, just so you know. And we got this great old farmhouse with a music studio, and you're like, wait, I've been looking for a studio to record my next project at. I'm like, didn't know that you were a musician.
Yeah.
Like, well, didn't know that you were involved in music either.
I know, that was quite a wonderful surprise, and it's been very fruitful and very spiritual. This place is, I've been in several recording studios before.
Sure.
And this particular studio, it's part the space and what you've done with it, but it's also a big part is you and what you bring to the whole situation.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's just a very open and freeing sort of experience. I never feel constrained when I come here to record. So
that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe we can speak to the last project that we did together. So Souvenir Satellite is the name of your I won't call it a band, maybe. How would you describe Souvenir Satellite?
As my music project,
yeah.
I guess. It is really, I record an album anywhere between this one is like the soonest that I've ever done. Coming here to do this EP after doing that. Generally, I wait 4, 5, 6 years sometimes because I have to find the people or the people find me. The situation finds me. I write songs along the way, and then all of a sudden I find or make a new friend that's a keyboardist or a drummer or something. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's time to maybe start talking about these songs and record an album. So Souvenir Satellite began in 2000. That's when the first CD was released. That was called Exiting Orbit Now. That was a very limited pressing. It was like only 100 of those. I don't even have one left.
Really?
Well, I have 2 of the CDs, but I don't have the CD jacket. I don't have the art for it anymore.
Oh, gotcha.
But that started because I was in a band and got kicked out of that band because they wanted to do something different.
Oh, right.
And I was like, all right, well then I'm just going to leave. And I just envisioned myself being in interstellar orbit and as a satellite orbiting, collecting souvenirs. And I was like, oh, that's going to be the band. That's my band name, Souvenir Satellite.
Love it.
So every time I do a project, it's a collection of individuals.
Nice.
You know, it's never just me. I mean, I like it that way. I like it to be a collaborative thing.
Sure. Yeah, very organic and kind of just responding to the circumstances you find yourself in, right?
Yeah. And that's how, you know, a lot of those songs, most of the songs on this album were written in 2020, which was a very... I don't even know what the right word for that year was.
Yeah, there's a lot of words for that
there
year.
There's so much happening that year So being a creative person that takes that, digests it, and then tries to make it palatable so that's not so distasteful.
Yeah.
That year was ripe with information to write songs about, and so that's what most of the songs on there are from that time period. But it's about the title of the album is Hello Goodbye.
Yes,
and that's speaks directly to the ephemeral quality of life, love, and relationships. So I was not only going through a pandemic. Not only going through all the sort of strange racial tensions and stuff that were going on in the country and political strife and all this stuff, and going through, my grandfather had COVID and he passed away that year.
Right.
There was just a whole lot that happened that year, and it just made me think that, things are here and then they're gone. Yeah. And it is just a fact of life, and so I tried to take that, and so each of the songs throughout the album relate to that. So it's it's a very conceptual album, so.
No, it's a beautiful record. I encourage everyone to go check it out. It's, available wherever you stream your music.
Yeah, on all the streaming platforms for sure.
And this is your grandfather?
That's my grandfather on a mule or a donkey down in Mexico. Yeah, and that was the thing. I had that photograph sitting around with me for a while, and it was on my drawing table in Brooklyn. And my producer, David Trammell, Mr. Blue Sky, he came up to stay with me in Brooklyn, and we were. It was in July. It was before we came up here the first time, and we were just sort of listening to music, and then he saw that photograph. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's my grandfather on a mule." And I said, he's always been waving, and I couldn't ever tell if he was waving hello or goodbye. And we just both had a moment. The song Hello Goodbye hadn't been written yet, but we had a moment. He was like, that should be the album cover.
Oh, nice.
And so that became the album cover. And then like in August of that year, when I was house sitting, I picked up a guitar in that house and started strumming out the chords for Hello Goodbye, the actual title track of the album. So.
Once again, a very organic kind of process.
Exactly.
Yeah. Would you say in terms of your songwriting process, do you start with melody or chords, or you start with lyrics first? And I don't know, maybe speak to that.
It's almost 100% instrument driven. I'm very, very busy. I have a lot of things going on, but I always surround myself with my tools. So there's a drawing table with paint and paper and stuff, and there's music equipment set up over here and whatnot. Yeah. And I might not play my guitar for a week or 10 days. But if I walk by and literally inside I hear my guitar say, pick me up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, and I'll pick it up, and I don't immediately try to play something I've already written. I just start strumming, and I might take the capo and stick it on a weird spot I never put it on, and just start something.
Yeah.
And that's really how a lot of my songs start. It's just listening to that instrument.
Sure.
Say, pick me up. And just being engaged with it. Yeah. And letting it unfold. I'm self-taught. I don't read music. So it is just by ear and just by moving it around. And seeing how it sounds.
Yeah. I've noticed you kind of came up with your own system of notating music.
It's
a weird code that's impossible to decipher.
It's only a code that myself and my producer understands now. But but it makes sense to me
Yeah,
since I'm the one playing it.
That's what matters.
It's funny. I don't.
Nobody can steal your song, so they find your music
exactly.
somewhere. Yeah.
And but the downside is I also can't sit in and play with other musicians so much. It's like I don't. If they tell me to go to a G or whatever, I'm like, I can't go there. I'm probably play it, but I don't know where it is to go there.
Sure.
So that's kind of the downside.
Yeah. Well, but I think it leads to, you writing kind of idiosyncratic music.
Exactly.
That, is very, I think your music strikes me as very earnest and just true to yourself, and like you're kind of channeling as you write it.
100%. Yeah. We've talked about that before, how, that has been sometimes a sticking point in recording, because it's always better, obviously, to lay, this track and this track and this track and this track. But because of the way that I play and sing at the same time, it's very organic, and I may not exactly be in the same time all the way through.
Yeah. No. Well, time's made up anyway.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Exactly.
I was curious too, just talking about, your process and your, what you do for work, your business. If you could speak a little bit to, I guess, sort of the work-life balance and how you navigate, having this business in I would say one of the most high-pressure fields that you can work in.
Yeah.
But then, totally shifting gears and, tapping into your creative side. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, it's especially as I get older, it's not as difficult. It has integrated itself just into my daily life. I believe a lot about spaces and environments, and one of the things, as when I come to a place like a studio, I'll bring things, like
tell us what you have here.
I have these crystals, this fluorite. This is copper for grounding. This is Palo Santo, which is it's like a smudge stick. Traditionally you burn it and it cleanses a space.
Yeah.
It's just a ceremony and it's a ritual. For me, life and every day is ceremonial, and that helps. That helps to speak to what you're asking, is that I don't just get up and go to work and come home and try to do something else.
Yeah.
Each day is a ceremony I act. I meditate when I first get up in the morning. I wake up early, anywhere between 4:30 and 5:30, so 30 minutes of meditation.
Nice.
And I try to do one in the evening, but I always get one in the morning. And then after that, immediately I go and I make coffee, which is not to wake me up. It's to go through the ritual of grinding it, smelling it, pouring it, drinking it.
Sure.
It's like that just sort of sets in motion the day. And then, everything else with that sort of base, I'm able to like handle the craziness that happens. So you've got to get over here right now and take care of this. And I'm like, okay, I'll do what I can, whatever. But then, when I come home, you come back into that space, and it's like, when I walk into my apartment, it's got my stuff, and it just makes me feel at ease and peaceful and calm.
Nice.
And I can draw or I can paint. I do have to tend to the business stuff, but I also need to like cut that off.
Yeah.
And when I have my son with me, I have to make sure that I'm there for him.
Of course. Yeah.
And so it's all just life, and it is a balance. But I think a younger me struggled more. Because it was like, I just had so much that I can do. I need to get it all done.
Right.
And now it's just like, I know who I am. I know what I enjoy doing. And I know what is required and needed. Yeah. And that's what I attend to first.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you've gotten to a very zen place about it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was also curious, you mentioned, your father, as am I, and your son is 11 now, is that right?
Yeah. Well, he'll be 11 in September.
Got it, yeah. Yeah, our sons have the same birthday.
Yes.
So that's another
September
fun
18th.
connection we have, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one, good day. How did you find, because I have my own thoughts about this, but how did you find becoming a father affected your, creative process, or sort of what we were just talking about, the balance of your life and all you were trying to do?
Yeah, I can tell you this. Before my son came along, I was painting a lot more. Like I hadn't played. My last album prior to Hello Goodbye was 2006. And this was, what did we do, 2022?
Yeah.
It was 16 years later.
Wow, yeah.
So in that interim, I was more focused on painting and writing, but the writing stayed in just little volumes, and they just stayed there for use later. But painting most of the time. And then when we knew we were going to have a baby, I knew that I was not going to be in the studio. So I literally packed all my studio up and put it into a storage unit, and kept watercolor and paper and pens and stuff, and just moved that home so that I could have that avenue to go to when I need to, but not all the oil paints and fumes and all that kind of stuff. So initially I was just all in and focus on the kid and everything, and that's what it is. It's such a joy and such a beautiful unfolding every day, and a surprise every day. But then when he's old enough to start drawing himself, and then it's just playtime. So it's just integrating what I do. So I'd put instruments in his hand and pencils and whatever in his hand. We did one whole wall in his bedroom, chalkboard paint, and so we draw all over his entire bedroom wall and just have fun doing that. So it's been nothing but a real joy. It hasn't affected my creativity in any other way other than I do think about him in some of the stuff I do. What I'm working on a book that's going to be released later this year that's all poetry that I wrote in the past 10 years, and the book is just sort of meant to be a guide for him when I'm no longer around.
Oh, it's beautiful
to answer any sort of questions or anything. So it's full of illustrations and poetry that was written for him and to him. So
it's a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that. I mean, my son's just 2 at the moment, but I definitely try to include him in a lot of the creative stuff that we got going on here.
Absolutely. I've seen some photos or some videos of him in the studio doing stuff. And
he likes to rock out on drums just like his dad.
It's very natural.
Yeah, Melanie and I joke. It's like, I feel like it could go one of 2 ways. It's like either he's going to be all in on the arts, or be like, I'm going to rebel and be a banker or whatever, so we'll see how it goes.
But either way, it would be a win.
Yeah, totally. I mean, speaking of, the legacy and future and all that, maybe you can just speak to like what's next for you and for Souvenir Satellite.
Yeah. So, like I said, we finished that album, and it was released in February of 2023. So it's been out for a little over a year. And since we stopped recording, which was October of 2022, I continued to write songs because it was just sort of coming. So I kept writing, and I would send them to my producer down in Dallas, and I was like, I don't want to do a full album again. I mean, it was taxing, and it was expensive, and it's like I want to, a lot of musicians just release singles, and then EPs. And I was like, well, I've got enough here. And thematically, there's some differences in the tracks that I could split these up into 2 different EPs. And so,
cool.
So that's what's brought me here, is to record a new EP here. That one is called Sweet Believer. And then I'll go down to Dallas to record the other one with David Trammell.
Nice.
And that's going to be called Fault Lines. And that'll happen whenever it happens.
Yeah.
But this one's happening now.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you're wanting to get out of the city, so you might find yourself up here in the next 5 years or something.
Yeah. Ultimately, I gave myself 15 years in the fine arts business in New York City, running that business. And we're in year 12. And so, I'm, thinking of ways to exit and what I might do up here. And I'm looking at possibly starting an artist residency, a nonprofit artist residency, where there could be 2 or 3 small studios on a plot of land, 12, 15 acres. Yeah. And I would live there, have my studio there. Yeah. Both music and painting. Cool. And then just have, rotating cast of artists, whether they're writers or musicians or even meditation or yoga, whatever, you know, just a peaceful place for people to come and work on themselves and work on their craft and mingle with the 2 or 3 other people and myself. And
Nice.
And that's how I envision riding out into the sunset.
Yeah, I love that.
On a mountain out here somewhere, hanging out with artists.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
Let's. I mean, we'll set the intention and
exactly.
manifest it, right?
Exactly, 100%.
Cool, man. Well, you're gonna play a couple songs for us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I figured I would play one song off of Hello Goodbye. That one, it's called These Days.
Yeah.
And oddly, that happens to be the oldest song on there. I wrote that song in 2006 when I moved to New York. I was living in Red Hook, and I had been working on, you know, the verses, and I was having trouble with the chorus. I just couldn't find. I mean, I had the music for the chorus. I just didn't know the words for the chorus.
Yeah.
And from my window in Red Hook, I could see the billboard over the Battery Tunnel. It's Hugh Carey Tunnel now, but it was the Battery Tunnel then. And the billboard announces how much money is in the lottery.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why in the chorus it says there's 52 million in the lottery.
Right.
Because I was just strumming the guitar. I was like, what am I going to sing here? And I was like, there's 52 million in the lottery. Yeah. I think I'm going to climb the Empire State. Because I could like see the Empire State Building. I was like, all right, we're done.
Sure, yeah.
And
soak in the surroundings. Yeah.
Again, that's, you know, that sort of like organic way of happening. So yeah, that's These Days.
Cool.
And then the second song I'll play is called Firefly, and that's a new one off of the EP, which you haven't even really heard me play yet.
Yeah, no, I think we were maybe going to record that one next. Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
cool.
it.
And anything you want to say about Firefly? I don't know much about it.
Firefly. Well, it's sometimes, and that's an interesting question about songs. Actually, in general, you asked how maybe they come to be. A lot of people ask, what do they mean?
Right.
Like, what do your lyrics mean? Who's this song for? What's this about?
Yeah.
A lot of times, I don't even really know exactly right away.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like I'm outside of myself, instructing myself, talking to me about myself, but from another voice.
Okay.
And then sometimes it feels like it's for the general public or for someone close to me.
Nice.
Because this story might relate somehow. It's very, very rare that I write a song specifically about a real life sort of incident, you know, a moment or something.
Right.
And so this one is just talking about the firefly. What is it? The chorus is, you know, sometimes a firefly just can't satisfy a flower in the dark.
It's a beautiful line.
Yeah, it's just, you know, sometimes, you know, it's just not meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, and you just have to sort of accept that. So I think it's a little bit about acceptance.
Cool.
You know? Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for talking, Michael.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to be able to do it.
Yeah, man. Give me a hug. Shake my hand like that. Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.